My name's Brad Hunter, and I'm a lawyer from Regina, Canada, which is in Canada's west. I've been practicing law for 27 years now. I learned about collaborative law about 7 years ago. My initial reaction to it was that it was another one of these fluffy approaches to divorce law, and I'd heard of many that hadn't worked, so I didn't start with a very good attitude. As time went on and I spoke to some colleagues about it who were practicing in other places, and pretty senior lawyers started to tell me that in fact this was a way to practice, so I started the process of investigating if this was something that I would want to do. Since that time, we've set up a collaborative law community in Saskatchewan. We've, I think, gone a long way. We've trained most of the family bar in Saskatchewan, and personally it's dramatically changed the way I practice. Although I continue to litigate, my litigation practice has dropped quite dramatically. I now negotiate virtually everything earlier than I ever did, and even my litigation cases are dealt with differently. So it's been a significant change in terms of the way that I practice. My interest, once I got onto the idea, I felt kind of the need or compelled to move forward and try to get people in my community involved. The first thing I did was, I was one of the senior family lawyers locally, so I talked to the two other senior family law lawyers. They were open to the idea, and then we started the process of building it in our community. Over the course of the last 6 years, which is how long we did our first training was 6 years ago, we've managed to train about 150 lawyers in Saskatchewan, which represents about 15% of the private lawyers in the province, and both family lawyers, and because we're in a more rural area, a lot of general practitioners. I do collaborative cases all of the time. In cases that don't go collaboratively, I still use the skills that I've learned to help with the negotiation. So I found that it's changed essentially my approach to law. And I think my clients are getting much better results, not necessarily monetarily, although the costs of me are a lot less. They're getting, I think, a result that's happier for them. One of the things that I see is instead of people living in a divorce for a number of years, and maybe for 10 or 15 years, if things don't get resolved properly and they're fighting with their spouse, they tend to get it resolved within a time frame that's livable. I think that's something we forget, is the incredible pain that our clients are going through, the incredible disruption they go through during the time that they're in the divorce, that they're actively fighting with their spouse, and things are uncertain. And that is a major, I think, consideration for our clients, is they get to address their issues face-to-face and relatively speaking, quickly. I mean, people don't think a process that takes anywhere from 2 months to a year is quick, but compared to either having to go into the court system or having it never resolved, we're constantly fighting over child care and what's going to happen is a huge value. And the other thing is the dignity that it gives to people, I think, are the values that my clients put forward. It's interesting, within our community, the other changes that have come forward are, I thought we had a relatively collegiate bar. I thought our lawyers got along decently well before. What it's done is it's dramatically improved our personal relationships. So we've gone from being acquaintances to friends in some cases. I can think of at least a couple lawyers who I really disliked having litigation files with for whatever reason. I either didn't respect them or I didn't trust them. And reciprocally, I don't think they liked having a case with me. Since that time, we've actually been able to do collaborative files together. We've actually been able to resolve disputes between clients quite constructively. So the other interesting thing is I've heard stories about how, they can't do it, or I would do it, but I won't do it with Bill. Well, you'll find if you do it with Bill, within the structure and the safety of a collaborative agreement, that there's every possibility that you'll be able to work with Bill. So it's opened the lines of communication within our bar, and it's changed at a deeper level, I think the way most of us approach litigation and the way that the community, the way that that we deal with contested cases, I think is done at a higher ethical plane now and at a more reasonable plane. So when we do litigate, it's a more constructive way. And that's largely because we have trained most of the family law in our community. So I think it's had an effect that goes beyond just the individual lawyer or the individual client and has had something in the community effect. What we're having happening now is the people who just wouldn't be involved or weren't interested in any training are at this point seeing that those of us who do practice collaboratively are still good lawyers, and that we're actually enjoying our practices, and they're coming forward and now volunteering to take the training, so that huge skepticism against some people is dissipating, or is largely dissipated. My hope is that it becomes simply a method of lawyering that will help all of our clients. In my community, we've seen a number of civil cases, non-family cases go collaboratively. There's some different dynamics in play. That said, the civil cases appear to work just as well. So at the end of the day, I'm hoping that collaboration is marking a new process, but beyond a new process, part of developing a new lawyer culture that will be far more client-oriented, far more empowering of our clients, and a more civilized approach to things. And hey, it appears to be working. 6 years in, we've made a lot of changes. I think we've built a good base. I like practice. I like litigation. What's happened is it's first of all, I don't take this home with me. My practice is home with me as much. I've learned to kind of distance myself from the problems, and not that I don't care about my clients' problems, but they clearly remain my clients' problems, and I don't load them onto my shoulders the way I used to. As well, litigation's a huge gamble. I mean, you make mistakes in litigation, there can be pretty severe consequences for your clients. In this process, we'll make mistakes, but we have a chance to work through those. It also places the responsibility where it should be on the client's shoulders. And I think it's just a more balanced way of approaching life. What we're taught in law school about this fearless advocate who fights every case is not a level people can sustain, lawyers can sustain. And at the end of the day, it's not the great approach for a large number of our clients.